The National Examinations Council has released the result of the 2025 Senior School Certificate Examination, with more than 80% of candidates recording 5 credits and above. Registrar and Chief Executive of NECO, Professor Dantani Wushishi, announced the results at the Council's headquarters in Minna, Niger State. According to the Council, a total of 96,979 candidates registered for 16 subjects comprising 51,823 males and 45,156 females. Of that number, 95,160 candidates sat for the examinations. In English language, 78.32% of candidates obtained a credit and above, while mathematics recorded a higher success rate with 91.35% achieving credits and above. Overall, 71.63% of candidates scored 5 credits and above, including English and mathematics, while 86.26% received 5 credits and above, irrespective of the 2 core subjects. Now, to discuss this, we are joined by education researcher Dr. Peter Ogudoro. Dr. Peter Ogudoro, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today for the 3 p.m. bulletin. Statistics standpoints here, how significant is the over 80% pass rate compared to NECO results over the past 5 or let's say 10 years, Doctor?
Yeah, well, a cursory look at it, it will make us want to celebrate and think that we have moved up significantly. But we have to put the result in the appropriate context. We can't compare this result to the result of the May-June exam. I suspect that most people are not aware that the people who entered for this particular exam are not the regular students in secondary schools. This is the one you call, schools that WASC for private candidates, which was an exam conducted in November, December. So the people who sat for it are not the regular candidates. A good number of them are both, within 20 years. Whereas for regular exams in May, June, what you find is that most of the candidates are under 17 years old. But here you have from 15 years, going as high as even 40. And so what you find is that one of the reasons why there may be a better performance here is the fact that some of the people who sat for the May-June exam and didn't do well are also a significant fraction of the people who sat for this one and who have had more time to rectify areas where they didn't do well in their previous attempt. And so as people get older, their skills at writing exams get to improve. And that's what we're seeing here.
Oh, wow.
But beyond all of this, we also know that this may not be completely a reflection of the true picture of where we are as a people, because examination malpractice still accounts for a significant fraction of the people who pass these exams.
Doctor, I don't know how to feel about that information. It sounds absolutely plausible what you're saying here, and you should know you're a doctor. You are the doctor when it comes to these statistics looking at the exam. So what you're saying now is that the core candidates that we should actually be using as an indicator for success or failure are not the ones whom have written this exam now. These exams have been written by people who perhaps have written before and are even older. And so what hope then for the WASC exams that are coming? Should we think that there might be a significant increase in the number of passes, or are we still, at risk of getting low results?
It is not impossible for us to get a performance that is close to this in May, June of this year.
What will that be predicated upon?
Well, in some sense, I think we have seen some level of stability in the education system, probably in the last 1 year. And we have also been complaining about the poor performance of our children in public examinations, and schools are taking notice, and a good number of them are making effort to try to improve the quality of work they do in classrooms. And states are also gradually beginning to realize that education remains the bedrock of development, and are putting more money into funding education, and of course also improving the quality of supervision they bring to bear on what happens in classrooms. So I expect that things will improve, but probably not up to this level of performance, because the candidates who will write the May, June of this year will be attempting that exam for the first time, and so won't be moving in with a lot of experience that would enable them to give us the kind of performance we have we have just seen.
So, Dr. Ogudoro, it's one thing for the education system to have upskilled. It's another thing for the examinations themselves to be dumped down. So I'm wondering, what do you think might be happening in the Nigerian education system with all the back and forth that we have had in the past couple of years regarding the results that we've been seeing, and how most of this responsibility has been pushed to the authorities, the education authorities?
Well, we know that we haven't really made significant progress with respect to the quality of instruction we will give our children. Our teachers are still far behind time in terms of pedagogy, in terms of the methodology they bring to bear with respect to how they teach. We are still so much into rote learning. We are still so much into making children believe that they are in the classroom just to acquire certificates, which will serve as meal ticket. We haven't been able to take our children to a level where they find being in school a meaningful endeavor, where they find interacting with their fellow students and teachers in classrooms as means to acquiring what they need to be able to become globally competitive. Everybody seems to be, in the school system, especially at this level, where we're discussing teenagers in the school system in secondary schools. With the understanding they have about education is that classrooms are places where they just go to acquire certificate, not necessarily to learn. Not much of meaningful learning is taking place. Once these children are out of school after writing the exam, ask them questions about those things they gave you. Just a week after, there's hardly any of them who can deliver anything that will make you proud of them. So we are not teaching well, and our laboratories are still completely behind time. We are not even equipping those places at all. The politicians are still wasting a lot of money on things that do not matter. They are not completely aware that it doesn't matter what they're doing in Abuja. If we don't get it right at the level of education and probably health, all our efforts in the parliament will come to naught.
Dr. Ogudoro, one more question. Interaction is one of the biggest pillars when it comes to education. And the way children interact these days has changed. Most of it is done online. They're on their phones. But our school system still maintain that brick and mortar style of impacting knowledge. What do you think needs to change in our education system to see us, the authorities actually, come up to speed of where these kids are already outside of the education system? Dr. Ogudoro, are you with me?
Well, it's very evidence that proves relevant it is. Yeah, yes, I'm here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'm saying, yes, we are not yet at a place where we are striking a balance between deploying technology appropriately while also ensuring that our children show up in classrooms and interact physically with their teachers so that we can become globally competitive. In the maybe about 5% of places where you have children whose parents have the money to procure the devices they can use to play at the level of technology. Yes, they are using technology to acquire knowledge and, of course, to be able to write exams competently, and they play at a global level. But the average Nigerian child still doesn't have access to laptops, still doesn't have access to smartphones, and electricity remains something that we are struggling with. So we are far behind time when it comes to deploying technology across board. We are not yet inclusive when it comes to using technology to work with our children in classrooms. And that's why some of us have continued to believe that it's actually not fair for us to insist that we use CBT as the mode for determining what children have learned in the school system, because these are children you are not teaching with technology. Why are you asking them to use technology to give you what you have taught them with that technology? So we need to improve with respect to funding, with respect to bringing technology into the classroom, with respect to teaching, training the teachers who are going to use the technology to train the children, and with respect to also ensuring that supporting infrastructure like electricity and provision of data, broadband internet access made available to children everywhere in Nigeria. By the time we get all those things in place, then we know we are beginning to compete with the rest of the world. But we are very far away from there.
Dr. Peter Ogudoro, thank you very much for having this conversation with us inside of the 3 p.m. Bulletin for News Central. Thank you, sir.